This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted, as always, to be joined by my good friend Xavier Miller here over Zoom. Xavier, we've been talking off camera. A very, very busy period for yourself in the gym and a lot of fighters with a lot of fight dates. How is everything, mate, there, first of all? You all good?
I'm all good, man. It's a good start to the year. Looking forward to a big one.
Well, we'll dive straight into things and start off by talking about the stable, obviously. We'll go to January 31st, O2 Indigo. Jesse Brandon is fighting on a Matchroom show. Delighted to say that I will be there covering that fight night, so hopefully I'll be able to see you there. It's a great show to be on, a really good opportunity for him to get himself out there. How delighted you to see Jesse get his opportunity on a Matchroom card.
Yeah, I know he's really good friends with Joshua, and I think Joshua's done a good job here. Always supporting Jesse. They've both been at the same gym, were at the same gym when they were amateurs. So yeah, Jesse's got a good chance here to shine. He's had a couple of really good performances. I'm looking for another one here, and looking at some titles towards the end of the year. So yeah, it's going well.
Is that the plan for yourself this year? Because you've got, I guess you could say, a stable of a lot of young, up and coming fighters. Is this the year where we see them transition from that apprenticeship stage of learning in the ring to pushing on in tougher fights, now looking for titles to set themselves up for even bigger opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. They've all there's realistic goals and there's dreams. A lot of the guys will reach Southern area level, and some will, go for European or a world. That's just the way it is in boxing. The domestic scene is very, very strong, and at times it's very, very hard to get out of it. If you get involved in a lot of domestic fights, you can't progress forward. The plan is to win, these belts, not necessarily wanting to defend them. Really want to move forward onto the next belt and move up. And some of the guys are ready this year, and a couple of other guys will be ready more towards the end of next year. But we'll see how it goes. It's looking good, and yeah, back to where I want to be, really building fighters and getting ready for titles.
I think a fighter who obviously won a big title last year, and is set for a massive 2025, Alfie Clegg. I spoke to him yesterday, um, and a massive opportunity to box at Wembley Arena on a Sky Sports card. Adam Azim headlining for the IBO World Title. Uh, Alfie's got, I guess you could say, quite a remarkable story. Speaking to him yesterday and hearing the journey that he's been on and how he's turned his life to where he is now, he really has earned this opportunity and definitely deserves it, doesn't he?
I'd say so. I mean, Dean White has done an amazing job with Alfie. I mean, basically guided his career from the beginning, from the very, very early stages, got him the right kind of fights. Eventually got him in a position where he could fight for a IBO Youth World title. Performed very well in that fight. I don't think he only dropped a round. I think he dropped the guy once or twice as well. So Alfie's doing really well. He's progressing. We're not in any rush with him. He's 23. There's not that many flyweights over here. He can even weight light fly. He kind of walks around sometimes at 51, 52. So he just got to be clever. He does have a loyal fan base. I mean, he's done good tickets every single time he's fought on Dean shows. And yeah, he wanted to do something different. Sorry, champ.
So good.
Yeah. He said he wanted to, be on a he wanted something a little bit different. We could get his fans to go out to your call, and because they are loyal fans, give them something a little bit different. So the opportunity came to go on Sky, and yeah, it's big. I'm really looking forward to. Sorry about that, champ. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to him performing and looking good. And them fans are going to make a lot of noise. He's got a lot of young kids as well because he's got his own gym. He trains a lot of juniors. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
How important is it having these fans behind Alfie? Again, it's something I spoke to him about, but having those fans, and it's very important to have them backing him because when you look at wanting to sign with a big promoter, they'll look at obviously one, your ability, but two, your ability to sell tickets and how much of an attraction you are. And Alfie's shown throughout his career that loyal fan base. Is that going to be a big part in obviously the aim is to secure a deal with a big promoter to get himself out there for these big opportunities? Do you think those fans play a massive part in his journey and getting him a shot on a big card like this?
Definitely. I mean, to be honest with you, this is the reason why he was able to fight one of those titles because he's had to pay for that himself. His fans have helped him get enough capital to be able to pay for a belt like that. I mean, normally you see these sort of titles they fought on TV. You know, not really, you don't really see them on small shows because you just generally can't afford it. You're not getting any TV money. He's actually paid his own way, so that's why I think he definitely deserves, to give his fans, an opportunity like this to see him on a big platform. And we'll continue building him. Dean's just done an amazing job. Black box shows look amazing. They actually look like TV shows. And again, Dean's put in all his own money. He's backed himself, and yeah, he's getting some title fights in his shows now, and yeah, he's doing really well. I'm in full support of what Dean's doing, and as I am with all the small promoters, because that's what helps the sport. You go on to the next level, you progress from there. That's your apprenticeship.
How important is small hall boxing to the boxing scene? Obviously, again, not a lot of attention brought to it, hence why it's got the name small hall. But I think it's where you see a lot of fighters have that development stage of their career, and sometimes it's almost probably a bit better. I think you could say it with some of the prospects on TV today. Um, sometimes people say maybe they need to go a few fights on the small hall scene, and then you can really see the development of a fighter there.
I think it's very, very important. I mean, a lot of guys, to me, that I see on TV platforms, they're not good enough to be there. And I think they would have been a lot better if they'd built themselves up on a small show first. A lot of guys are on the big stage and they come up short. And really, another year or 2 years on small shows, you would have learned how to deal with those occasions and fight different styles so you're more ready. I think small ball boxing is very, very important, as is the amateurs. We need it. This is the foundation. It's the grassroots. It's part of it. I think you should earn your right to be on a big platform. I think someone like Alfie, someone like Jesse who do good numbers. I think every now and then they should get an opportunity to do that. And if you do well enough at one of those shows, then you've got a chance of getting signed. To me, that's the way it should be done. But everyone's journey is different, isn't it?
Absolutely. Moving away from the stable, and I want to go on to a talking point we were just talking about off camera. I was talking about how I was in London last week to speak to Devin Haney at his open workout, and I was moaning about how cold it was. And you mentioned obviously it's not good for the fighters sometimes training in cold weather, especially how it was last week in the minus degrees. Um, I'll let you take the stage here, but what is that difference from training in the cold to training in a nice warm country like we see a lot of fighters do?
I mean, some coaches are not going to agree with what I say. But I was boxing back in the '90s, and when I traveled to America, it was different. When you're in a kind of warm gym, you warm up a lot quicker. A lot of guys go into a cold gym, put on cold gloves, put on their wraps, and the bones at that point could be quite brittle. Because you haven't allowed the body to warm up. But there's another issue. It's very expensive to heat up a gym. A lot of these guys, they've got amateurs in their gym. A lot of these coaches that run these gyms, they don't have the money to be leaving the heating on all day. It's very, very expensive. It's just like the hot water. A lot of gyms you'll go to, and the hot water taps are turned off because they just can't afford, to pay those kind of heating bills. So I understand it, but that's why a lot of guys do travel abroad to go and do their training camps because the warm weather is better. It's better for the body, 100%. Even if you use common sense and logic, you'll hear a lot of guys talk about you can't afford to get caught cold. Well, what's that telling you? You get in the ring and you don't warm up properly and you get hit with a good shot. You haven't allowed your body to, get used to, the kind of punishment it's about to take. That's why you have to be very cautious early in fights. But a lot of times, a lot of guys, they warm up really well before the first round. So when they come out, they look good. Some guys take time to warm into the fight. You have to be careful with those kind of guys in particular because you don't want to get caught cold. It's one of the worst things is to go and get caught cold early in the fight. You do a 12-week training camp and you get hit with the first shot, and it's a shock to the system. If you notice with a lot of guys, they might get hurt early, and then later on in the fight, they get hit with the same shots, but it's not having the same effect. So it's very important to warm the body up. So that's the reason why I don't like cold gyms. I try my best to leave the heating on. It's on a timer. I know the time the guys are coming in, and then during the day after 12, it's off the whole day until the amateurs come in back at 6. So that's the way I work it. But yeah, I don't like training in a cold gym personally.
There's a lot more, I say, logic behind that than what you think, especially when you mention, obviously a lot of the coaches running these gyms can't necessarily afford to pay it. Do you feel something should be done I'm not trying to make this political, but we've seen it in Parliament this week, mentionings of Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Do you feel like there should be more investment and more government funding into boxing gyms, especially when you look at what it does for the community?
I definitely think. I think that regardless of what town, state, you're in, you should be getting backing and support from your local authority. If you're getting young kids off the street and getting them into a boxing gym in an environment where they feel safe, you should be pumping money into those sort of gyms and into those sort of projects. And it doesn't happen. I can tell you firsthand, me and my business partner have basically funded this gym for the last 10, 11 years. We've never had any support. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in our gym, but we've had to draw upon favors or get the money ourselves. Like it's not really fair, but you apply for funding. A lot of time you don't get it. Some other gyms are more favored. It's just the way it is. You might be one of those lucky people that do get money to go and fix the toilets or fix the roof and so on. But yeah, I don't think any of the gyms in the country should have to go through that problem, considering what they're giving back. Helping a lot of these young people, these children and young people. And it's about making a positive contribution. Like if anybody is doing that, it's about the younger generation coming up. And if you're taking your time to look after those younger people, at least have a safe space to do so and make sure we do have the right heating and do have the right equipment. So yeah, I think more should be done. I think that the professional side of it does make a lot of money, and I do think they should invest a portion of what they make back into amateur clubs. And bear in mind, a lot of these fighters have to remember that's where they came from. They're getting their success now because they came from amateur boxing. So I think a lot of these boxers could do a lot more. I think donating like 2, 3, 4% to your local club is not really the biggest deal in the world to me. I'm constantly doing it. Every time I make a bit of money, I put a bit aside for the club. That's how it's managed to survive. Same with my business partner Nick. So yeah, a lot more could be done, definitely.
I think it's a very interesting point. Obviously, you mentioned boxing gyms keeping people in a safe space, and especially in a day and age where knife crime is very prominent in the scene. Um, we see it near enough daily, not just in our local areas, but across the country as a whole. Knife crime is very high, especially with the youth, the teenagers, the young adults of today. Um, and it's been spoke about for years now. Obviously, how boxing takes kids off the streets and gives them a safe space, and it's always been viewed like people who don't know boxing view it as it's a violent sport. It just raises violent people, but really, it's an art. There's discipline being taught there. It's controlled, and
100%.
a lot more needs to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mo- Moving away from that though, and we'll move on to talking about the big parts of the sport, the aspects. I guess once we talk about the top level athletes making the money, but let's talk about some of these money fights that have been made this week. Um, we were texting the other day about Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Now signed, sealed, delivered at middleweight. Um, a rehydration clause has been put in place as well at £170. What do you make of the fight being made?
I said it since it was first announced. I don't like the fight. I don't even have much to even say on it. I just think it's I don't think enough has been done to warrant this fight happening. Um, I would have liked to see Conor, you know, win a welterweight title first, or fight a couple of other big names like a Drum Booth Ennis, and then you could say it's safe to take a gamble and maybe jump 2 weights. It's a big deal what he's doing. Um, I don't particularly like Crawford and Canelo fight, but Crawford's proved himself, um, and he has gone through the weights. It's still a very, very risky assignment, to be honest with you, but a bit more confident in that one than in this one. I like Connor. I wouldn't like to see him get hurt. Eubank, if he's on his A game, and being a naturally bigger guy and has faced tough competition, he might have come up short a couple of times, but fighting the likes of George Groves, James DeGale, to me, he's a lot more ready for this. But I like both guys. I'm a fan of both guys. I like watching both guys. So, but really, I just don't like the fight.
Obviously, we've seen the rehydration clause put in place. Do you believe that puts the fight on a bit more of an even playing field?
See, the real problem is if Eubank was younger, I would say no. But as you get older as a fighter, you move up in weight naturally because your body naturally grows. So that's going to hurt Eubank. It will hurt him, definitely, because of where he's been operating. And it gets more and more difficult to drop that weight as you go along. People don't understand that it's going to be Conor's actually in a more advanced position than Eubank is because he doesn't have to cut. He can come in as he wants to come in, and he's going to be comfortable. Whereas Eubank will be slightly depleted, and I don't like the idea of that at all. Anyway, I think it's dangerous. So yeah, I don't like the fight. I really don't.
Moving away from this, and we'll go to. I know you love the heavyweights, so we'll go to the heavyweight division. Not necessarily talk about a fight here, but obviously we spoke in the aftermath of Usyk versus Fury too, and whether we'll see Fury fight AJ or not. As it stands right now, he's retired. He announced his retirement on Monday just before the Better BF Bivol press conference. What do you make of it?
He's done it numerous times, hasn't he? And he retired quite a few times, so I don't really take it that seriously. I think at some point he'll come back and probably fight Joshua. So just wait and see what happens. But again, there's not really much to talk about there. If he says he's retired, then fair play, respect to him. But I don't think he can walk away from the Joshua fight. I think these guys still have got some unfinished business. It's just a shame that Wilder really is at the end because he would have been good fun to get him in the mix as well with Joshua. But yeah, I'm not really fussed. When he comes back, which he will do.
We'll move on to Wilder shortly, but just a few things because in that 20-second clip Tyson Fury put out, there is an interesting bit to break down. He says, "I'm going to leave you all with this. At least Dick Turpin wore a mask." Obviously, at the time, I was very unaware of Dick Turpin. Obviously, I can't remember. I'm a young man. I didn't really know much about it. But obviously, Dick Turpin was a highway robber. Um, what do you think that message could mean?
No, I think he's just playing a game and waiting to get more money. Just rob the bank one more time. That's what I think he's looking to do, and then he'll probably retire. So he'll probably get as much money as he can out of the Joshua fight. That's what I'm expecting.
See, it's interesting you make that point because talking to other people, some people are saying that message is a shot towards Usyk and the judges in the second fight, believing that he got robbed there. Do you believe this is more a negotiation tactic?
No, he definitely didn't get robbed. Usyk won that fight. He won both fights. I don't understand that argument. But fighters should if they've competed and it was reasonably close, they're going to believe they won anyway. So I can't knock them for that. But yeah, I think his main focus is Joshua. I think he's always wanted to fight Joshua anyway, but getting as much money as possible out of it. But it's a massive, massive fight, and that's one I actually would like to see.
How do you believe the fight would go between Fury and Joshua?
It's hard to say after watching Joshua against Dubois. I had it as a very close fight before I saw that fight. But then again, Tyson Fury has been quite off and on. I mean, Ngannou was terrible. The Wallin fight wasn't the greatest. He got the better of Wilder. I think styles make fights. I don't think he was great in those fights. I just think he showed a lot of heart. Um, Obviously, he was very good against White. But then he seemed to do. I thought he did better in the first Usyk fight than in this one. To be honest with you, but yeah, it's just when you're fighting the best guys, it's the way it's supposed to be. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Some are going to be close, some might be a draw. It's just the way it is.
For Anthony Joshua, if it isn't Tyson Fury next and Tyson Fury is completely retired, who would you like to see Anthony Joshua fight?
Dubois, I would like to see a Dubois rematch. Definitely, I don't think Joshua will want to walk away from that fight. But there's a lot of good fights. I still would like to see Joshua and Big Baby Miller. I thought that was the build up for that one was pretty fun, so that would be a good fight. He's got a rematch with Parker. He's got a rematch against Parker. The rematch against Parker would be good. A rematch with Dillian would be a great fight. That would be good at this stage. I'd love to see that. But yeah, Josh has got a lot of options.
Just quickly assessing the heavyweight scene as a whole, do you feel we're really hitting that stage? Obviously, it always moves in a full circle, and we're at the point of the circle where we're at an end of an era, and a lot of these top guys right now are going to be on their way out, retiring within the next 12 to 18 months?
Mm, I don't know. To me, we're definitely coming towards the end of an era with these guys, and yeah, I've just enjoyed watching them so far. To be honest with you, I just don't want anyone to go on too long. That's all.
You mentioned Deontay Wilder and being at the very end. Well, he is having a fight, we believe, I can't remember what date, but he's fighting Curtis Harper. Curtis Harper's got a record of 18 wins and 11 defeats. And for those who might not necessarily know the name, there was that viral clip that went around a few years ago with F.A. Ajagba and a guy walking straight out the ring as soon as the bell was rang for the first round.
I
And
remember. Yeah.
that's Curtis Harper. That's the man Deontay Wilder's fighting next. Just seems like a fight that's just there to build his confidence back up, I suppose.
I think he could do with three or four of those. To be honest with you, to see if
Really?
there's actually anything left. Yeah, I think, but at this stage, this is where it gets dangerous. I mean, he really didn't throw anything against Parker. I had him beating Parker in his prime, but he didn't even throw any punches. I sat there, watched the whole fight. I was like, what is going on here? And then, the fight against Zhang again didn't really do anything. Look, he just didn't seem. It didn't look like he was there to have a fight. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's better to build his confidence up and then take a gamble. You put him back in again with one of these big fights and he gets knocked over again or knocked out. It's not going to be a good look. As boxing fans, nobody should want to see that. Obviously, if he was still in the height of his career, you'd want to see it. It's just a shame that when he was at his height, these fights didn't get made. That's the problem. And that's why sometimes it's better just get these fights done. Otherwise, you're getting them right at the end and you're not really getting a true version of these guys. So, yeah, I think a good 3, 4 fights for Wilder. If he's got anything left, test him against that level first. Let's see if he actually got anything. And if he gets one or two good knockouts, like build his confidence back up, and then bring him back in. He hasn't had a good. The last 3, 4 years hasn't been good for him. So what more does people want to see? You don't want to see anybody get seriously hurt.
Do you feel with Wilder sometimes and just big fighters in general who are on a bit of a downward slope with their record and maybe going through a rough patch? Sometimes it's better just to put the ego and the personality to the side and go and take these confidence building fights because we don't really see that a lot at the top level, and especially for someone like Wilder who has lost 4 of his last 5.
You
Something
see,
to be done.
you're spot on there. This is what I mean. It's your recent form. If it was just one fight, like I don't think Joshua needs that. Yeah, he's had a bad fight against Dubois, but before that, he's been performing okay. Whereas Wilder, like we know, the last 3, 4 fights haven't been good. They haven't been good. So why keep going down that road? Let's take a couple of steps back, press the reset button, and let's see where we are. And that's how I like to view it. And I would say that about any of those guys who were on a bad run. Take the level down. There's nothing wrong with that. Some guys do need to build their confidence first. There's nothing wrong with it. We seem to be kind of getting away from that now. It's like this rush to have 50-50 fights or rush for big fights. It's like you're not allowed to develop anymore. Or if you have a really bad loss, like you can't really go back and take time and build. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's a bit strange with Wilder at the moment because of what you're seeing now and what he was doing previously. Two completely different things. He had a get out of jail card. If he landed his right hand, that was it. Doesn't seem to have that right hand anymore, and he was never really technically that good. So you're taking away his main weapon. He needs to go and find it.
Just going back onto Tyson Fury quickly. Obviously, a lot of people mention the retirement and not really believing into it because of how many times this has happened now. But do you feel there's a sense of realism with this one? He might be actually done, just given the fact that he's lost both fights with Usyk now. There's no easy path back to a world title, definitely not in his next fight. And Fury's always been one of those fighters that kind of wants to compete to be the best in the division. If he's not the best, he doesn't really want any part of it. Do you feel, given the circumstances right now, that we may have seen the final installment of the Fury story?
No, I don't see that at all. There's still a lot of guys he can beat. I mean,
Mm.
if we get 10 guys in the room right now and list all these other heavyweights outside of Usyk, they're going to say Fury is the favorite. So you can't say that. He's still got a lot to offer. He's just his height, his ability. It's just a very difficult style to beat. It's just that Usyk is, wizard.
Moving away from the heavyweights, another big fight signed off by Turkey Al Sheikh, Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia too. A very personal fight now compared to the first fight. A lot's gone on in the aftermath of the first fight. Do you feel the rematch is the right move for both fighters, first of all?
Definitely, as long as the drug testing is going to be on point. I think that this is the reason why I do like what Turkey's doing. I think if he does manage to put himself in a position where he's actually controlling boxing, then everybody will be on the same drug testing path, and that will help the sport. I mean, I want to see what the fight looks like with the guys on an even playing field. I don't give credit at all for that victory because you're caught cheating. I don't. I personally don't respect that. Um, he also purposely came in heavy. You should have been having your sights set on winning that title from Devin. I think it was a WBC title or a WB. I can't remember which one it was, but you haven't won a world title yet. That was your opportunity to win one. So not only do you get caught cheating, you've purposely come up in you haven't made the weight, and then your opponent has done the work to make weight. It's an unfair fight. So yeah, I would like to see on even playing field. I think it needs to be like drug testing like for a whole year, or from now till when that fight is actually scheduled, to ensure and make sure these guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, it's unacceptable. I mean, I listened to a Talksport interview recently, and I don't know if it's Adam or one of the other guys on there. He said it right. I thought it was very sensible. If you get caught and you know where the substance came from, you're on a 2-year ban. If you get caught and you don't know, it's unacceptable. It should be longer. And then someone has to be accountable, you or your team. Where they actually come from. But if there was one rule in place, then fighters would be more weary about taking those sort of risks. They know, what, if I get caught doing this, I'm going to get banned for 3 years. You're going to lose money for 3 years. But because you're playing this game where, okay, right, you get 6 months, and all right, then you're going to get 3 months, or you're going to get a year, you're going to get 2 years. There's no consistency. It should be fair across the board. You get caught and that's it.
What do you make of Ryan Garcia refusing to use WADA as the drug testing panel going into the fight?
Don't really know what to make of that, to be honest with you. Like I said, but usually, no one should be able to pick and choose. You should be tested randomly, and it should be at that set time, and it should be no exception for anybody. I've been involved in big fights, so I've seen it. I've seen, the testers just turn up. You could be driving back to your house, and they're coming to the gym. You've got to turn around and go back within a certain time frame. That's the way it should be for everybody.
Um, just moving away from this, I suppose. Actually, no, sticking with this. It's not going to be a straight into the rematch. They're going to share a card in May, first of all, and then go into a rematch in October or November, I believe. I think it says
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Garcia is set to fight Isaac Cruz, and then Devin Haney's going to fight Jose Ramirez. Do you think that's the right move, or do
Yeah,
you feel like they're making a big risk there, to making them fight separately
right.
with each
To
other?
me, it's the right move. There's nothing wrong with two guys being on the same card to build the fight. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. And I think it's good that more so for Devin, because obviously he needs a confidence builder. It was a hard fight. Showed a lot of heart and character, kept getting up. I was impressed with how much he just kept trying right to the final bell. He was in deep. He was in a lot of trouble. So I think he needs it more than Ryan, that fight. But yeah, I think it makes sense for both, and I think it's a good build up.
Do you feel they're running a risk doing that though? We've seen it with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder back in 2023, where they'd signed to fight each other, but they had the separate fights on the Day of Reckoning card. Do you feel you run a lot more of a risk, mate, taking this approach?
I think they're both young. For where they're going in boxing. I mean, Devin already has proved himself, being undisputed. Ryan's still got some work to do, but he's beaten Devin unfairly, but he's beaten him. Um, I think both those guys are in a good place where the guys just below them, they should be beating them. So I don't think it's really a high risk for me personally. I think it's good for both guys to see where they are. We're going to see a clean version of Ryan, and we're going to get a chance to see Devin and see if he's still the same fighter. Because some guys, do have a fight like that, and they never really recover from it. It's just like they just don't get back to where they were. Other guys do. So it'd be good to see him in another fight, and then we know that come October when they have the rematch, both guys are ready.
Well, Xavier, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time as always. Always good to catch up. And I'll see
Well,
you in London, I suppose, on the 31st.
yeah, well, we'll try and get you down there before then because obviously we've got a lot of big fights coming. So yeah, we'll definitely catch up. But yeah, thanks for your time, chap. Take care.